Great to be here. Finally, a live audience. So many webinars in the Corona days that this is a good little refreshment. Always great to be in Latvia. And yeah, my name's Alex. I'm the founder of Promoty, and today we're going to talk about the landscape in the Baltics. So quickly about Promoty, which was already said in the intro as well, but we're a platform that help connect influencers and brands, and we like to call them superfans. Actually, I'll get to that why we call them like that. We've operated for about 4 years. We're now in 9 countries. We have over 10,000 active influencers, and we've run over 3,500 campaigns so far. So from those campaigns, a lot of them also have been in the Baltics. So we have some learning, some statistics, we've seen some things, and we're going to get right into it. So let's start. First off, should you even care? Should you even care about influencers? And we made a little checklist for you if you should. So here it is. So once you know who you are as a brand, then it's very difficult to also convey that to the influencer and for the influencer to convey it to their audience. So if you have that defined, you can check that one. Next one is, what are you selling? What's your product? It should be quite well explained. It should be easily understandable what it is. Otherwise, once again, if it's very difficult to define, then your influencers are also going to have a hard time telling it to the audience. The target group, who's your audience for your products. If they are in Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or wherever you're trying to do influencer marketing, then that's great. Your clients are there. Then you can check that box. If you, for example, sell, I don't know, tires or ventilation or something like that, then you don't have that audience in Instagram, let's say, then you shouldn't do marketing there. So if you tick all these boxes, and the last one you can add whatever social media you want for this, then yeah, you should care, because your audience is there. Definitely they would buy because they're your audience, so you should talk to them. But does it work? Does influencer marketing really work? And this is something that's sometimes brought up in the media as well. So let's look at some things. Let's see how it really works and what it is. So there's one little fact that 92% of people trust their friends, family, and idols more than traditional advertising. There's a simple reason for that. There's a person in the middle that you trust. For example, maybe you have a friend that knows a lot about laptops, and you want to buy a laptop, so you listen to them and their advice. They also have influence over you. So all of these people, everybody is really an influencer. Some people just have a different audience size. For example, maybe we have 100 people here. I can tell you how it works, and then maybe. So it has always existed. Back in time, you could have influence for as far as you can shout. But now we have social media, so you can reach millions very fast. And that has given a rise to this industry called influencer marketing. So as you can see, it's growing quite fast. Already by the end of this year, it's going to be around 13 billion. And it's set to go even past 15 billion in 2022, all of the spending in influencer marketing. So the question, does it work, is not really the right question. Why would marketers who are smart people spend the Baltic countries' yearly budget on something that doesn't work? It definitely works, but it's like a hammer. A hammer is really good for bashing in nails, but if you take it upside down, it's not that good. So that's the same with influencer marketing. The real question should be, does it work for you? And it doesn't work for everyone. So there are some things to take into account. But anyway, let's get to the landscape, and the landscape in Baltics specifically. You can kind of think about it like a swimming competition. So you have a pool, it's very simple. You jump in and you start swimming. The task is known. And what we see not too much of is this. So, not this one. We'll get to that one. So this one, where you have the nice technique, and you go in, you do your task, you swim, and you execute it beautifully. But in the Baltics, what we see the majority doing is this nice little belly flop. And there's a very good reason for that. If we go to the next slide, you'll see the statistics of experience levels of marketers, how experienced they rate themselves to be in influencer marketing. And it turns out large majority rates themselves as new to influencer marketing. They're not very experienced. Less than 9% or so in general are who say they're experienced marketers. And there are many reasons for that, which we'll get to as well. But first, more belly flops, okay. So let's look at the money. So the prices, people always love to ask this, so we'll just get that out of the way in the landscape so we can get back to why we belly flop. So on the bottom there's the amount of followers. You can see how the accounts grow, and then you see the price on the left in euros. As you can see, Estonia is a bit far off in the bigger end, and the reason for that is that there's more budget going around, more campaigns, and the bigger influencers, who there are not that many of, start getting more and more offers, and that drives the price up, and it kind of shows like market maturity. So the more budget that comes in, more things that are being done, then the prices there will start going up. And as you can see, it's also happening in Latvia and Lithuania, and it's going to continue to grow over the years, most likely. Then we have the prices slides here. Most likely we'll get these slides later as well, but if you want to take a quick picture, you can take it, so you know what can you expect. And this is like a general guideline, and it doesn't really take into account like special conditions. For example, somebody with 1,000 followers might ask 500 euros for a post, and it can be perfectly justified. Why? Maybe they have a special skill. You need a video, and they're like a world-class videographer, but they don't have a lot of followers, so you need that content. So it can be different with added value, but this is what we've seen as a general trend. Here's Latvia. So this is what we've seen in Latvia. And an interesting thing here with the next slide in comparison is the last one, 300 euro story for 50,000 followers. In Lithuania, the story price is a bit less, which is a bit surprising, but I guess it eventually, after some years, it will probably equal out. Industries is the next thing. In the industries, it's all very stereotypical and standard, because we're mainly experienced in Instagram and working in Instagram. And these are the industries that are there. And any kind of industry, when you think about it, is it a stereotypical Instagrammable industry? Then most likely it's popular, and it's among that. Maybe the interesting one here is pharmaceuticals, but in the end it's like hair vitamins and stuff like that. So it comes back to the standard Instagrammable things. It's not bandages. So when you're in these industries, it probably means your audience is in social media. So if you do not already have a good like influencer strategy, then you're probably missing out on that. But coming back to the landscape, coming back to the belly flops, there are also some problems in the Baltics. And there's often this statistics given that every €1 spent in influencer marketing earns you like 5 euros back, so 5 times return on investment. And this is a great metric, but you probably will not see this, because that's what the expert marketers get. And new marketers come into the scene and expect that result right away in the first campaign, in the first month, but it's not going to happen. It works in a very different way. It kind of works like startup investing. You have maybe 9 influencers that completely flop, and you have 1 that makes it back 20 times. And then the average becomes like that. You don't expect it to be like kind of equal. And we'll see why people don't get this result. What are people doing wrong? So in influencer marketing is kind of out of control, because all the new marketers are coming in, and they're really experienced in the field where they came in from. And often maybe they get delegated this task. Maybe they're the social media person, and they go in with the knowledge that they have and try to apply it there. But it's very different, because influencer marketing can't be really compared that well to digital marketing, outdoor marketing, because you have people in there. You have that person, and you have that person has a one-to-many relationship with more people. So it's a very dynamic, very chaotic environment. And if you come in with that energy and start smashing things, then it's going to go out of control. And due to that, lots of reputational damage has been done to influencer marketing. You get articles, does it work? Influencers suck, they just take money, they take the products, they don't give any results. But in reality, most of those cases that are being reported like that is somebody that tried a campaign for 1 week, didn't get the results they expected immediately, and then made the conclusions that it doesn't work. So how are we killing influencer marketing? What are we doing wrong? Most marketers think it's easy. It's not as easy as picking out 10,000 follower person, sending some products, make some sponsor posts, maybe a few stories. Let's get those sales rolling, massive profits, amazing. It's not that simple. Influencer marketing is actually super complicated. If you think about it, if you take 10 influencers, then you have to negotiate with every single one of them, get the logistics straight. You need to then understand how their relationships are with their audiences, what kind of things work there. It's not only about the numbers, which is the next problem. People only take, let's say, the follower number and say, great, you have 10,000 followers, you're a great influencer. Or, oh, I know engagement is important, so 10%, 15% on 10,000 followers, that's amazing, good engagement. Let's take this person. But you also have to take into account the audience demographic. Is that your product's demographic? How do they talk about their product? How do they talk to their audience? Does it fit into their life? There's so many things there. I have actually a separate presentation that's like 50 slides about only all the details you have to take into account when putting together an influencer strategy. So assuming it's easy, which a lot of people do, is actually the underlying problem of why things go wrong. Another thing is random influencer marketing bursts. And often we see clients coming in with very ambitious plans and trying to do big campaigns, but they realize really fast what kind of effort it is to do it, even with a technology like ours. If you do it manually, you go completely crazy. And then they kind of stop because it becomes too overwhelming. They maybe had another task as well, and you will get a campaign that lasts for half a month, maybe 2 months, but you don't get that continuous effort. So if we go to the next one, which is short-term collaborations, and those squares here are actually alarm clock emojis. So we're going to do a little test here. How many people have 2 alarm clocks in the morning? Raise your hand. Nice, about half. Oh, who has 3? 4, maybe more. Great, like at least over half of people have at least 2. So when you think about it, you need at least 2 to 3 touch points in the morning to even start your day. So if you see something once in social media and you scroll by it, you're not going to buy it, you're not even going to remember it. Try to remember an ad that you saw only once. Can't think of any. Now, maybe in Estonia at least, we get this ad, like COMM app or some meditation. They cut some nice blue stuff, very relaxing, super cool. You get that a lot in the feed, and I remember that. So there's a lot of touch points, and finally I see like 15 times, what the hell is this blue thing being cut? Why are they cutting Play-Doh in my feed? And then I go check, okay, this is some interesting meditation app. So you cannot do short term, 1 month, 2 months, whatever, it's not gonna work. And you shouldn't use influencers only once. It's not gonna work as well, because they will post it once, things move so fast in the social media that it's gonna be forgotten, and you're not going to get the effect. If you think of any successful social media influencer program in the world, then they're all long-term collaborations. Way too much sponsored content is another thing, and it goes both ways with marketers and influencers. If you go to influencers feed and every post is like sponsored, 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 maybe one normal post, sponsored, 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 you as a marketer shouldn't pick them because they've already sold out. And you as an influencer, if you're planning to do that cash grab, then your career is going to end in a few years because you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're going to lose your credibility with the audience because they started following you for something else. And now you're only putting up ads. So this is a mistake that we've seen people trying to do a lot, and especially since influencer marketing is becoming more popular, more deals are coming in, it's easy to say yes to all the money, but you shouldn't. It should be something that's a part of what you really do. It should fit in your feed, and a marketer should look at this as well, because that's the authenticity that you need to get the results. Another problem is not seeing content creation as a real job. We've seen this attitude a lot, but in reality, when you think about it, photography, videography, it's the same thing in the end, and that's a very real job, and it's very difficult to do it right. A lot of work goes into content creation, and of course it's great to pay only in products. It's a good match if an influencer is super happy with the product that they received and they're willing to do it, but you cannot do it 15 times or 20 times. And we're one-off, yes, but you need to build long-term relationships, and if you want to build a long-term relationship, you need to value their work and pay them correctly, because they're going to grow your brand, so they should be compensated. So it's very important to see it as a real thing. Also, some influencers are not honest, and especially it happens in markets that are just starting and getting their first influencer marketing growth, like in the Baltics. So people try to scam, they try to cheat the system, they try to buy followers, or do all this stuff. Also a thing, if you're doing it, then you're shooting yourself in the foot, because as you saw, maybe 70% of the marketers are new right now, they don't know the tools, but it's very easy to see with tools if you have it or not. And eventually, when 70% are experts, you will get 0 deals and your career will be over as an influencer if you do this. So it's not very good, and even kind of like fraud to do that. And as a marketer, what you can do to check this is, if you don't use a tool, simple metrics like looking at if the engagement rate is ridiculously low or all the comments are like bot comments that look the same, you should always ask for demographic screens. Of course, those can be photoshopped as well, but I mean, hope they don't go into that kind of detail. But in the audience, you will see it clearly where their followers from, and if it's like 90% from India, but they're in Latvia, then it's a bit sketchy. And if they're not willing to give you demographics, then I say don't work with them. That's not professional. As an influencer, you are a single person media company. you're selling ad space to your feed, so you should provide the data. It's not a private information. Now, content should be marked right as well. You can get fined for that. There have been cases, so you should know the local regulations, like in Estonia, #reklam, and every country will have their own, and the regulations are coming in, and also things like financial products, for example, have to be marked, and things like that. So those you need to keep in mind, and sometimes people try to slide away from it, but it will bite you in the ass later, so don't do it. One thing is doing the same thing as you did 5 years ago. Maybe you're an expert, you were at the time, you did super well, and now you're trying to do the same things. Well, Instagram looked like that 5 years ago. Didn't have stories, chronological feed, which was great, of course, but only thing that remains from that is maybe producing great content regularly. All the algorithms have changed and everything has changed, so you need to really be on top of the new stuff to be there, and I feel that a lot of marketers are kind of getting stuck in the past with that. And another big thing, is the fear of failure or spending. As I mentioned before, that €1 equals €5 thing is not going to happen like that, and you're not going to get it immediately. It's the result of long-term experimenting, and it's very okay to lose money on influencer marketing because it's a long-term strategy. You need to think of it as maybe the first year is experimentation. In 6 to 9 months, you will get your first results. It should look something like this, that you get maybe 30 people that you collaborate with, and maybe only 2 work out in the end. And it's not because those influencers did bad collabs or like they sucked. Simply, there are so many variables you cannot predict, and it's nobody's fault. It's just something you cannot predict and you have to test. And it's okay to do this experiment, because the ones that do, lay the golden egg in the end, they're gonna cover that return on investment for the ones that you lost money on during experimenting. Treat it like startup investing. You do 9 failed investments, and then 1 is going to bring it back maybe 50x. And we've seen this as well, like influencers that have 4,000 followers. There was a case where one person sold over 80 products, and there was another account that had 17,000 followers and quite high engagement, sold 1. Good metrics, right? But still, what went wrong? One audience had that click, it fit there perfectly, and the other one didn't. And you cannot find that out before by looking at them. So you have to experiment and find out what it's like. And there's a lot of fear for that. And what we see as well, the experienced marketers spend like 5 to 6 times more, and a lot of that is experimental. So they're finding the people who work. It's kind of like building a fire. So when you build fire in a bad environment, then you need to really play around with it. You have the little sticks at first, get the fire going, give it some air, then you get that little formula, right? It starts to burn. Now you start putting bigger logs, you get the bigger fire. Eventually you have midsummer, and you throw your old couch in there, and then it's an amazing big fire. But it will go out if you stop throwing couches into it or logs. So you will need to take care of it. And it's the same in influencer marketing and in any kind of marketing. If you let your fire go out, you will be forgotten, and you always have to deal with it, keep on top of it, put new fuel into it, and experiment at first to get it right. So think about influencer marketing strategy and also regular marketing strategy like building a fire. Don't let it go out. So belly flopping happens a lot, but instead, we want to do this. So how can we do that? What can we do to save influencer marketing? And we shouldn't look at influencer marketing as influencer marketing, but we should look at it like superfan marketing. What is superfan marketing, or what are superfans? So in reality, it's nothing more than your happy customer that already exists, but maybe has some kind of influence. Let's say, simplest thing to do is, if you have an e-commerce business, for example, check your clients and try to Google them and see if some of them have like a profile that has influence, and then reach them out and see if they're interested in working with you. Because that's the best thing. They have an authentic, real experience, they love it, and you should also check that they have real followers, a real audience that matches with your demographic, and you have the golden match there. And you still might fail because maybe they will not present the product correctly, or there's something else in the audience dynamic that goes wrong. So still, even then, it can fail, but you have to keep experimenting and you will find them. There are many examples of this. For example, Gymshark started with 2 influencers. Now it's a 200+ million a year business that's only been built with this strategy. Just finding those people that click, removing the ones that don't. We're both responsible as well for all the details, so you need to give the influencer the right briefing, or they don't know what to do. What are the goals? What are we trying to achieve here? And the influencer should also read the brief and really understand what the marketer is trying to, do. It should be a professional relationship, not just like slamming stuff around. Then, as I mentioned before, focusing on long-term collaborations. It should even be like a long-term fundamental branding strategy. You shouldn't think of it as like a Christmas campaign, then we do a summer campaign and so on. It's also great to do that. Some brands do that really well, but they have a regular yearly cycle that repeats always. So you have a long-term fundamental strategy, and then you recruit people based on your criteria. Both parties also need to put in the effort. As I said, the marketer has to provide everything for the influencer so they can create the content and promote their brand. And the influencer should also deliver. It's a professional relationship. Deadlines and everything should be treated with respect. You want to have a good working relationship and trust each other, and that's what creates growth. So that's all cool and crazy, but what can you actually do? So let's look at some actionable points that you can do right now in your business, maybe next week. First off, set a goal. This is very important. Some people are very excited, get started, but they forget what their goal is, what are they trying to achieve. And this is a big mistake because goals determine success. You can be a very successful person if you set very low goals. You will achieve them immediately and you will be super successful. You want to get only one sale? Amazing, you can do it in a day. But goals are what make you understand, are you going where you want to go? And it's important to communicate this to the influencers as well. This is what starts the foundation of the briefing. Then first thing, after your goal is set, you can recruit a team of influencers, and preferably you should do it from your happy customers, but of course, in an ideal world, you will not always have that. So you can recruit new influencers, and what's a good technique as well is called seeding, where you send your products without expecting anything in return. That's the experimenting part. You will lose money because a lot of people won't like it, but you will find people that like it. And then you can recruit them to your team, and what you should do is try to outreach to many, convert maybe 5 that are working really well, keep them in the team, then recruit more, and your team will start growing and growing and growing. This is how, for example, Gymshark did it, this is how Daniel Wellington did it, and their multi-million-dollar businesses built only on this strategy. Let them use their content types. This helps you you don't have to be on top of every trend. They will know what's going on because they're in it all the time, so you can just trust them on what they're doing. You don't have to give too much restrictions. Then implement that long-term measured strategy. Write down what you try to achieve, what are the metrics that you're measuring. It's very important to set KPIs. If you cannot measure, for example, direct return on investment, maybe take reach, brand awareness, you should put in place KPIs that you're checking, because that's how you know if, let's say you take 30 influencers, who should I keep in the next cycle? Then constantly measure and optimize. Treat it like a sports team, but everybody should be a Ronaldo, so you shouldn't have like side players. Everyone should be the one that lays the golden egg, so it's okay to remove some, and also it's not like something personal. Maybe they're a great influencer producing great content, just didn't click with your brand. Not a problem. And it should be professional and honest, and you don't waste your time, and they don't waste their time, and you end up getting a great team that will produce results. Then it's important to compensate accordingly. For example, once again, if you're making money off them, so should they. So especially if you have return on investment measured campaigns, such as like Daniel Wellington is doing with the discount codes, they give a cut on every sale to the influencer. So if an influencer sells a lot of watches, then they also get paid a lot. So they're super happy to sell more watches. Your business grows, their business grows, everybody's happy. So don't be too stingy with the payments. If you're benefiting, so should they. Reuse their content. We have some research that shows that you get over 50% more engagement if influencers are on the picture in the brand's own feed. It makes social media managing easier. You don't have to produce all this content. I mean, social media managers here will understand how difficult it is to produce content, because you need a regular cycle that you post all the time and you have new ideas and so on. If you have a regular influencer program that has maybe hundreds of influencers, you don't have to do any of that. You just reuse all of it, and it's amazing, real social proof that people like your stuff. And once again, don't be afraid to experiment. This is the biggest thing that's done everywhere else. We see it in Scandinavia, in Finland, people love to do that. We have Lumina campaigns that have like 90 influencers, and they keep the ones that work and change them out regularly. It's the way it should be done. So don't be afraid. I understand sometimes it's difficult, you don't have the budget for it, but you should plan it into your budget. If you don't have the budget for it, it's okay, you can find different growth hacks. But if you do have the budget for it, then it's worth to do that experimenting, or you just won't find the people that work. It's kind of like content marketing and blogging. It takes time to click with your audience, to write the right copy, to write the right value-adding blogs. It takes 6 to 9 months to get results. So that's a very important point. And to sum it up, experiment and adapt, try things, see what happens, learn from it. Speed of learning is very important. You will grow as fast as you learn. If you become stagnant, you will not learn, you will not grow. Take more risks, because you cannot fail if you do not take risks. And from failures, you learn the most. You know what didn't work, so now we can do something else that maybe works, and eventually you will stumble on something that works. And be methodical and commit to the strategy that you set in the beginning. Think it through, what you're measuring, what's your plan, and execute it a long time. Because what we see a lot is that people make this amazing plan, super, everything is going to be measured, but then they just stop a few weeks in or a few months in. But it was a great plan. It would have worked if they kept going for a few years. They would be the next Gymshark, you know. So long term is important. Nothing can be achieved. Well, you can get successful overnight in 10 years. So that's it. And thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I think you made some really nice, highlighted some really good topics, and I'm sure our audience will have some good takeaways from your presentation. Thank you. Just in case if there will be any questions, I will ask those to Alex. Will you stay now? Will you be available? No. Oh, you are leaving. Okay.
We have to run.
Then do you have any questions now? Anything specific?
Yeah,
I can see a hand there. Can you try to ask without the microphone? Would that work? Oh no, there is a microphone. Nice. Just a second.
Hi. Thanks for the presentation. It was great. One question. For me, as a business owner, what would you suggest kind of measures so I would know that the influencer is authentic? Because we live in the times where people buy people. Yeah. And for me to know, is this going to work for me? What would you suggest? How can I check them?
Yeah, so first thing what you should check is, just a simple thing is check the engagement rate. If it's too low for what's the standard of competing influencers, then it might be a risk. Ask for audience statistics. If you see 90% are from India, then it's not going to work. Check what their comments look like. How do they talk to their audience? How many times they reply to stories, for example, or repost story replies. You have to follow them for a little bit to understand. It's not very easy to do it immediately. And even with the technology that we have, it's not very easy to assess beforehand, are they or are they not, because there's some sneaky things you can do. So you need to kind of observe them for a little bit longer. Or if you see that it kind of looks okay, but you don't have the time, then just experiment, try it. So that's that.
There is one more question over there.
Thank you. I have a question. What would you suggest if my target market is Western Europe, like France, Germany, some places where I even don't know anybody?
Yeah, and it's not just everybody there, right? What's the narrowing down of it? Who are you looking for there?
Man between 30 to 40.
Let's not go into details.
Good target.
It's our product is a mini camper.
Yeah, so it works the same way, but it's very difficult to just go and search in Instagram. So you should definitely use some technology that have the capability to search influencers geographically. So then you can filter them through. And if you need local speaking influencers, you're going to need somebody who speaks the local language. There's no easy shortcuts. Other than maybe you want to expand to Finland, then you can use Promoty, and our Finnish country manager can help you. But in France, Germany, you need somebody that knows the market, or you can use maybe some local providers. It's probably the best and easiest way than to learn it all yourself, because there's a lot of different things in different markets.
So I need some agency.
Yeah, or technology where you can filter it and then do experiments.
Like Promoty.
Yeah.
So for whom in this audience that would be beneficial to go and talk to you actually about the Promoty?
Yeah. So
do you work with all markets? You don't, right?
So in the Scandinavian and Baltics and Netherlands and Denmark, it's very easy. We're active in those markets. If you have markets you want to go to that are not those markets, then we can still help you, but it's just a little bit more expensive. And then we have our people that will be with you on that plan.
If anyone wants to talk to you, where they can find you? Somewhere downstairs?
Promoty.lv. So Elisa will help you out. She's our Latvian country manager.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.